Hey, it's Josh. So as you can tell by my voice, I have a horrible cold, which sounds so deep and rich and sexy and feels absolute crap. This week I have something that I mentioned on the last podcast. I had an idea to do a self-help kind of thing called 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration. And I did a bit of a countdown. I did a day -2, day -1. And then when I posted day 1, it went viral on TikTok, which was great and got me a couple thousand extra followers and also obligated me to do it every day for the next 4 years. So these originally started out as lengthier rants, but very quickly evolved into a minute-long daily affirmation kind of thing. So I won't be popping in between each segment because I think you'll get it, but I will show up at the end to say goodbye.
Day -2 of ignoring the Trump administration. We have day 1 coming up on Monday, and then the following 1,461 days. Now, you might ask yourself, Josh, what the hell is this about? How the hell are you going to ignore the Trump administration for 1,461 days? Well, I am not going to be willfully ignorant. Of course, I am not moving to the woods or climbing up a tree. So there will be interactions that I have with this president and his administration that I cannot do anything about. But what I can do is train my brain so that when these interactions happen, when my eyes see things and my head sponge starts to process them, I can learn to efficiently, elegantly, and in a sophisticated manner dispose of those thoughts. Now, you might ask yourself, well, Josh, what if this administration does things that affect your life in a way that you simply can't ignore? Well, that is something that will happen regardless of whether I see the danger coming or not. So I will absolutely deal with doom if it presents itself at my door, but I am using this challenge as an opportunity to clear space in my consciousness to be a creative force, whether that's fiction, whether that's nonfiction, whether that's short stories, whether that's poetry, whether that's visual arts. I did a lot of collages when I was younger and made all sorts of mixtapes for people with these custom covers that I'm sure are still in their storage somewhere, because why would you get rid of something so beautiful? You would not. This is something that I am also issuing as a challenge to you, because you might be somebody that is going to either cheer me on and maybe be inspired by this, or you are going to be someone that is going to deride me, going to make negative comments and try to bring me down and try to push me off of this resolve. And I welcome that, because really the ultimate goal is bigger and better interactions with all of my fellow human beings, and I welcome everybody, because no matter who you are, from what walk of life, you will still be affected by the actions and behaviors and willful malfeasance of someone that I consider a dick. Our incoming president, I've always called him a dick. I don't get too deep into policy. I mean, I understand it, and I am interested in it on a superficial level, but I am much more interested in not allowing myself to have people that I consider dicks in my life. Whenever I was a young boy and I learned about calling someone a dick, I got a deep understanding of who is a dick. And I decided then and there that we do not want to allow people who are dicks into our life, because why would we? Especially if they are the president of the country that we live in. Now, I am not a big believer in government to begin with. I think it's good when they fill in the potholes. And frankly, if incoming president saves TikTok, for example, I will be like, hey, that's good. That's a good job. But overall, when someone just does some one nice thing, that doesn't mean they're not a dick. He's still a dick. Like I said, I just have always based that on the fact that I grew up with this man. I'm a New Yorker, and we've known it for a very long time. And I watched every season of The Apprentice. And why? Because it was fun to watch someone be a dick and to watch people react to someone who's a dick. Watch me work. 1,461 days as of Monday. This is day -2. Let's go. Day -1 of ignoring the Trump administration. I gave a little intro to this. This is not a protest. This is a pro test. And what do I mean? Let me tell you, and feel free to join along for the next 1,461 days starting tomorrow. This is a 2-point pro test. Pro meaning become a pro at mindfulness, become a pro at being able to control your mind. And here is what I mean by that in some kind of detail. I'm not going to move into the woods. I'm not going to crawl into a tree. Of course, I will interact with the news of the world and the Trump administration's activities on some level. It can't be avoided. But the point is, and I have already gotten into the mode over the last couple of days, when this information crosses my field of vision, and it will, how quickly and efficiently can I dispose of it? How quickly and efficiently can I allow it to leave my consciousness and allow myself to get to point two? Point two of this 4-year experiment is to be able to use that energy that I would normally be using to funnel into any kind of reaction, mostly outrage, as you can imagine, into something productive and creative. Creatively, long form fiction, short form fiction, poetry, videos, short form videos, long form videos, pithy thoughts. Basically, what I'm saying is to develop one's creative aspirations, one must practice those creative aspirations. You might call them hobbies, but I think of these things in a much deeper way. I believe they come from being able to get further and further and further in touch with one's core consciousness. You know, David Lynch just passed, and one of the things I respected and admired about David Lynch was his lifelong devotion to transcendental meditation, which is something that I will be celebrating 11 years doing transcendental meditation on January 24th. So I have a belief and a practice in being in touch with my inner consciousness and in ignoring the Trump administration for 1,461 days. And it may be longer if Donald figures out a way to stay in office, or if it becomes the Vance administration, and I certainly would like to continue to ignore that. In taking on this endeavor for 1,461 days, I am hoping to deepen that consciousness and deepen that skill set and deepen that knowledge of myself while being aware that there is no way to ignore the situation, the reality that will be taking place as of tomorrow, and that we have been leading up to now, haven't we, for quite some time now, ever since he came down the escalator in 2016. But I will tell you that, you know, as a New Yorker, I've known Donald Trump my whole life, never liked the man, called the man a dick. May not be able to call him a dick anymore in any of these apps because they may censor any Donald Trump talk. Now, the fact that I am going to be ignoring the Trump administration, this may mean that I may call him a dick, or I may say something that somehow some underling, some intern in the Trump administration who's in charge of going after accounts like this that have, you know, a few thousand followers or whatever, but there might be an intern who's like, I'm going to put myself in charge of going after the little guys, the little accounts that say things to impress the boss. Well, if I was paying more attention, I might hear some news report about something like that, or some underground news item, however we're going to communicate as the administration tries to, let's use the word choke, tries to choke the expression of the people who don't conform to the ideologies that they would like them to conform to. So I might not ever get that information, and I might find out, get a knock at the door, or however it's going to go, when they crack down on the micro account that said something wrong. But whether or not I knew about it ahead of time or only knew about it when the knock came, that knock would still come. So it is my will and my inclination to live this free life over the next 1,461 days, if at all possible, by ignoring the Trump administration here on day -1. We're going to see how it's going to go. And now, I also wanted to say that I welcome any derision. I welcome negative comments that say, hey, you can't do this, or hey, TDS, or whatever you guys say who like to leave negative comments, which I think is a very bizarre thing to be doing. But I love all people, and I see through that behavior, because when I am experiencing that kind of behavior, I'm clued into something about you that you may not be clued into about yourself. I find it fascinating to get negative comments, and frankly, the more bizarre and angry they are, it fascinates me because I realize I know more about you than you know about yourself. I also hope to get positive comments, and as the days go on, when I say day 239 of ignoring the Trump administration, I hope by that time there's a few people who are like, come on, Josh, come on, we're with you. And I look forward to that. I certainly don't expect that on day -1. I don't expect that on day 14. But when we get to day 239, we get to day 912. I would hope I get a few comments that are like, holy crap, Josh, I cannot believe you have lasted this long in ignoring the Trump administration. But that is what I plan to do. And that is what I've started doing. And I don't expect that as the posts go on, they'll be like long like this. They might just be like, hey, day 912 of ignoring the Trump administration. What's going on out there? Maybe you'll tell me something in the comments that I don't know, but I plan to be ignorant to the daily goings on of these very cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs people. You sound like a little child, like a little girl. Mommy would be so proud of you. Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to respond and to get some insight into who you are as a person. Now, Mommy would be so proud of you. I assume this is sarcasm, but I will use this opportunity to let you know that my mother passed of lung cancer when I was in my 20s, and I was in Sloan Kettering Memorial Hospital and saw her dead body there in the bed. And I did not want to look, but I did. And I told myself not to look, but I did. And I wish I had not looked, but I did. And that is an image that haunts me. Would she be proud of me? I think she was. At that time in my life, I was in my early 20s, 21, 22, basically. I was just getting my act together, but I think she was proud of me. We had our ups and downs as I was growing up, and she was a person that I had to help out a lot when I was young in a way that probably a child shouldn't have to help out their parent, but that is the reality. And another reality is that you say you love it, that I seem like a child. Now, that might be sarcastic as well, but if you truly do love it, then I am glad, because that is something special that I like to do, and to make people feel happy and joyful, and that they feel like life is worth loving. But if you are being sarcastic, which I think you probably are, then when you tell me that I act like a child, like a little girl, I have to wonder if that's something that maybe you heard while you were growing up, and when your parents didn't approve of you and your behavior, and they accused you of acting like a child and like a little girl, which is a very demeaning thing to say to a young boy, because it is telling that boy that they are less than masculine. And that is something that a boy endeavors to be when they are growing up. In a lot of cases, I would say in most cases, they want to emulate their father. And when one of their parents tells them that they're acting like a little girl, that's hurtful. And I can see why you would see a video like mine where I don't think I've done anything childish, and I don't know why you would think that my thoughtful and calm comments are necessarily gender related. That is perplexing, I must be honest. I can understand why that upset would cause you to pick up the phone and leave a comment like this. So thank you again for the opportunity, and I wish you well. Day one of ignoring the Trump administration. We had a big snowstorm last night, and I am here at the P. I just saw two managers in front of me. One of them asked, "Is the Chase open this morning?" And the other one said, "No, it's a national holiday. It's Martin Luther King Day." We could go into great detail about the irony of this situation, but congratulations to this person for ignoring the Trump administration. Let's talk about what I was thinking about when I was driving over here this morning. Now, this P has a particularly right-leaning clientele, as you may have gathered from any video of mine. And I thought to myself, what if one of the workers, one of the clients that I see here on a regular basis says something like, "Isn't it exciting? It's inauguration day." And I thought to myself, what would my response be? And my response would likely be, "Yeah, it sure is exciting." Now, I would say it just like that, which might provoke a person to respond, "What, you don't like Donald Trump?" Or, or even something even stronger, "You're a lib," or whatever kinds of responses that we all know that we get at this point regarding this issue. I thought to myself, how would I react to that? And I thought my reaction would be, I just don't like the man. Now, if they pressed and said, "Oh, really? What don't you like about him?" And, I might get into details, but I think I would say, I don't know. I grew up in New York. I just don't like the guy. And the point of the matter is, we do not have to justify not liking somebody or something. If we go to a movie and we don't like it, if we hear a song and we don't like it, it is okay to say, "Oh, I just don't like it." Now, you might be inclined to get into details about why you don't like something, and it's probably a good thing to be able to explain why you don't like something, not only for another person to be drawn into who you are and how you are, but a better understanding of yourself, right? But the thing is, we don't owe anyone that justification, so I think leaving it, "I just don't like the guy," is a great way to go. Now, I will say that it doesn't change the fact that I do understand why I don't like the guy. And it also doesn't change the fact that this person has the right to live their life out in any way that they see fit. I personally choose to live within the bounds of society's norms and also to live within the bounds of the law. And while some people choose not to, including, it seems, the President of the United States, I think that is fine, because we have systems by which he can either suffer the consequences or attempt to get around them. That is up to him. But it does factor into why I do not like this person, which gets me back to my original point. It is okay to just say that you do not like someone. I am going to be ignoring the Trump administration for 1,461 days, and I have to think about how I'm going to handle some of these situations. And that is, I think, the best solution. I just don't like the guy. Ignoring the Trump administration, day two. Now, it is day two, which means we survived day one. That is the point of this entire exercise, is that we are here, we are doing our thing, we are freeing ourselves of the burden of having to acknowledge the Trump administration, while at the same time accepting that we can't completely ignore the world around us. But what we can do is strengthen our resolve, strengthen our minds, and when we become inundated with information, we can just let it slide, let it glide, and do not hide. Now, I want to flip this camera to show you something that is important. What we have here is a cat, and her name is Stella. The reason I showed you Stella is I just want to show you another creature that we inhabit the earth with, who seems quite unbothered by the Trump administration, seems perfectly content to ignore the Trump administration. Now, you might say, "Josh, that is a cat." Of course, the cat is going to be able to do that. The cat doesn't care about anything else other than eating, sleeping. I don't know, what else? What is she into? being petted sometimes, I guess. The point being that if an animal can be completely content and happy on this earth without having any kind of interaction with a government administration that is just something that man made up, then why can't we do the same thing? Yes, we can. Now, of course, there are consequences sometimes of actions of other people that we cannot control, but we still must deal with. Well, I am telling you right here and now that because this is day 2 and not day 1, we are already dealing with it. And just remember, each and every day that we get through is one day closer to the end of this nonsense. And I want to assure anyone who might say, well, Josh, what happens if he doesn't leave? Or what happens if we get even worse results the next time around? Well, I will say, look, we will be strong, we will be resolved at that point, and we will be practiced. Because again, in addition to using our energy and time towards things that are more productive and more joyful and that bring us more happiness in life, the other part of this is to become good at mindfulness, become good at extracting thoughts from our minds that we just don't want to be there. And this is not meant to sound like some hippy dippy holistic nonsense. This is just practicing anything. You don't think it's hippy dippy holistic nonsense when someone says, "Ooh, I want to play the violin. I guess I have to practice." This is the exact same thing as that. If you want to be able to have the muscle memory required to be able to let the gross goings on of the people that are running this country slip out of our consciousness, this is the way to do it. I will see you tomorrow. Day 3 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. Now, I would like to remind you today that the resolve that you will be experiencing as we get to day 4 and then day 400 and then day 928. You are building a resolve and a strength that is not just for you. That resolve and that strength is for other people in your life who may not have the kind of resolve and strength that you have. You may very well be one of those people that is the center of a little bit of a world where people in your life look to you for advice, they look to you for comfort, they look for you to give them guidance. And the stronger you can become at ignoring the Trump administration, where you let that information come on in and then said, oh, that's you again, isn't it? Well, I'm sorry, but you're not welcome here. And then you let it fall away. Well, at least you have the knowledge, but you are not burdened by the knowledge. But there are going to be people around you who are not only burdened by the knowledge, but they are letting that knowledge eat away at them and eat away at the time that they have on this earth to be spending doing other things. Now, it is snowy outside right now, and it has been plowed, which means everybody can get out, get around, right? But when we see a natural occurrence like snow, we need to be able to enjoy something that is so beautiful. Now, of course, snow is burdensome. Sometimes it gets in our way. We have to shovel it, we have to plow it, we have to salt it, and whatnot. And those burdensome qualities of snow get in the way of just enjoying this very bizarre sort of thing when these crystals fall from the sky. But we don't let it completely get in the way of living, now do we? We get it out of our way, and that is exactly what I am talking about here. Just get it out of your way. But there are those neighbors and friends who might need you to come out and help them push their car out of snow or help them shovel because they just can't do it, whether they're older or infirmed or there's something that requires them to ask for help. So what I am saying here on day 3 of ignoring the Trump administration, that is to remember that it will feel a little bit scary around day 30. It'll feel a little bit scary around day 300. When January 2026 comes around, it's like, oh my God, we still have 3 years to go. You're going to feel it. You got to stay strong. You got to stay positive and joyful and just enjoy your life and realize that whatever's going on in that dude and the people that dude surrounds him with, That is really not something that you can take on because they are suffering whatever struggle led them down that path. We don't really even want to know exactly what that path is because that probably is a path that has things on it that would just trip us up and make us fall. And this is not a time to be tripping and falling. So, once again, just please take my advice. When that information comes into your consciousness and your field of vision, allow it to be there, acknowledge it, and then say, "So sorry, bye bye. I have other things to do." Rhymes with Famous says you can't feed a troll even if it's the president. Rhymes with Famous, I thought, I know someone named Seamus, and it is the person I know named Seamus. You cannot feed a troll even if it's the president. And I actually made a note to talk about this very thing. Trolls thrive on us reacting. If we do not react, we have nothing to offer them. And then what do? They want us to come to where they are because where they are is the only place they know how to be. They don't even understand where we are, and they certainly don't understand where we're going with our resolve and our mindfulness and our willingness to ignore the Trump administration. So when we do react, which is a natural thing to do, I certainly feel it many times a day, they just are fed, as you said. Instead of reacting, continue to work your mind into a place where when these things are happening, you just use those block and delete buttons because that's what they're there for. They are useful tools for us to eradicate these people from our lives and not give them what they want. And in essence, by doing that, we're helping them. We are helping them because there won't be many. Maybe it'll be 1 out of every 1,912 people who get online to make comments like this who are actually people and not bots. Maybe one of them decides that they are going to maybe look into, why do I feel this way? Why am I so miserable that I would spend time making nasty comments online? And maybe they will change their life. And that reminds me, out of the J6 pardons that were just issued, there was a person who was offered a pardon who did not take it. And she said she did not take it because she was guilty and deserved the sentence. And I congratulate her, not for refusing the pardon specifically, I congratulate her on deciding to change her life. Let's change ours too. Day 4 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. Now, you may ask yourself, Josh, what can come of this 1,461 days that's possibly any good? And the word that comes to mind for me is transparency. One thing that I believe about this current quote-unquote leader is that he is not a conspiratorial person. He actually commits crimes right in front of our faces and just expects us to eat it. Why would he spend his time trying to plan things behind our back? He just plans and does and schemes and connives all he wants. And if you find out about it, well, that's just too bad for you. Now, isn't that what we've seen so far? I think transparency is something we are now going to expect from all politicians. Let's take AOC, for example. No matter what you think of her, I do see that when she comes on my screen, she seems to talk to me in a way that she knows me and kind of wants me to know her. For example, when asked if she would go to the inauguration, her response is, "No, I don't celebrate rapists." Now, this is something that a friend might say to me, and we would laugh over a coffee about it. They wouldn't say that on public in TV because they wouldn't use that word on TV, but she does use that word on TV, and she has something at stake because her colleagues in Congress do not like her, and a lot of people in the public do not like her, but she says what's on her mind. And frankly, that is why the current quote unquote leader has gotten where he is, because he says exactly what his followers want to hear, which is not something we want to hear. I think we all agree that we would like a more progressive, socially liberal person. And if you're not a person who wants those things, that's okay too. It is the point of this 1,461 day exercise of ignoring the Trump administration to not harbor all sorts of feelings that take up space in our hearts and minds, and we just want to use that time to do things with our life that make us happy and joyful. So on this 4th day of ignoring the Trump administration, I recommend to you to get up, get out, and ignore all you want because we have a lot of days to go. I'm having a really hard time ignoring so much chaos, especially the salute. Well, as a Jewish person and as a human being in general, I cannot disagree with you. I will tell you that I am having a hard time ignoring people that I'm friends with, people that I care about, reposting this information as if they are well meaning and just letting us know. But in doing that, they are just showing this image over and over and over and over again. And I have found, and I will have to recommend this, that even if it's someone who's a family member that you care dearly about, if you tell them, hey, I realize you're just trying to spread the word, but what you are actually doing is infecting my mind, infecting my consciousness with this image over and over and over again. And I think that the point has been made. If that doesn't work, or if it's someone you just know online, but you know they are well-meaning, I unfortunately think that the way to go, and what I've done is, you press that not interested button, or you press that unfollow, not unfriend, but unfollow. And obviously there are other extremes, like just getting offline completely, but part of this exercise of ignoring the Trump administration for 1,461 days is not to completely alter my life or run away, but to train my brain to process this information in a way that is healthy for my own personal well-being, and therefore healthy for the people around me that I love and care about. I understand where you are coming from. I do not want to see this image again, and hopefully I won't see it again, not only because of the things I mentioned doing to keep myself from seeing it, but hopefully I won't see it because it won't be continued to be done. Day 5 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I want to make something very, very clear. I hope that every single member of the Trump administration is approved with flying colors. That does not mean I want Democrats to vote for them, because that would just be bizarre. But I would love for every Republican to gleefully vote for every miscreant that our current quote-unquote leader has offered up. And why? Why? Well, I believe that will survive. And if we're going to survive, then I want these people to have the opportunity to bring us to the very depths that it is possible to go to in order for us to be able as a people to recognize just how low we have sunk. If these supporters, or as some call them cult members, of this current president don't experience firsthand the degradation of the quality of life that this person has brought to their door, then we will never be able to bring them out of their fog and lift up all people, which I do believe should be part of ignoring the Trump administration. I fully believe that my neighbors and the people around me who have fallen into the clutches of this situation should have the opportunity to rise up and recognize their mistake and start a life beyond the Trump administration. And so I am wishing for all of these fine nominees. And when I say fine nominees, I hope you know me well enough to know that that is sarcasm, are confirmed and put forward so that they can do their jobs in any way they see fit. Let them burn it down. Well, they are going to burn it down whether we let them or not. And what happens after something is burnt down? Well, it is rebuilt, and rebuilt better by stronger people who are made stronger by overcoming adversity, which is exactly what we will be doing while we are ignoring the Trump administration for the next 1,461 days. I look forward to emerging on the other side of this as a better person, and I will be here for anyone and everyone who would like to be strengthened and like to come along on this journey as we get better and better and better by ignoring the Trump administration. They will still blame it on the last administration. Well, as I have been explaining, part of ignoring the Trump administration is accepting that they are going to do whatever it is they're going to do. We have recognized over these years that there is no fidelity with truth. There is no fidelity to any institution whatsoever. The only fidelity is to whatever whim comes through the head of these morally bankrupt people. So blaming things on other administrations is really not our problem. Our problem that we face is being able to take in the bits of information that cross our path without harboring them or dwelling on them, because we have a life to live and we need to find prosperity and personal happiness in order to help those around us who are not as strong, and also to use the time that we gain back from ignoring the Trump administration to put into more creative endeavors that make the world better. So they can blame away all they want. It will not change the fact that these are people who are living a miserable existence. Day 6, 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. The word I have on my mind this morning is karma. And I am not referring to the very catchy Taylor Swift song, All Props Out to Ms. Swift. I am talking about the placeholder I use to refer to the concept of every action has an equal and opposite reaction. As we know, this country is quite young and was founded amidst a couple of words that I cannot say on this app for fear of being flagged. But one of those words has to do with bringing people here against their will to force them to work for free, and another has to do with eradicating the indigenous people of this country because a bunch of white men decided they wanted to run it. That sounds quite similar to something we are going through right now, a bunch of white men wanting to run things. Well, I do believe that as a young country, the universe is yet to have its way with us, but it will. And in order to begin that process truly, we must get to the bottom. We sure did get close this last time with what I believe is going to be our future of Black women and Indigenous women running this country as it should be. People who truly understand what it is to be suppressed and oppressed, and to walk with a history such as theirs, who can then look towards the future with those eyes and understand and empathize and give compassionate policy to all the people of the nation, including the 1,600 people who were recently pardoned. Now, that is a bit of information that has seeped into my consciousness because it is hard to ignore. So don't be surprised, but continue to be mindful in order to let this information come in and allow you to slot it into the column of, oh, this has to happen this way in order for us to get to the next more prosperous, more joyful, more equitable place that we are going to. No, karma is not the universe's boyfriend, but it is in a relationship with it that will be going through some tumultuous times, but eventually will emerge victorious.
Hey, it's Josh. So that was week 1 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I hope it was beneficial in some way. It is for me. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and leave a review on your favorite podcast app. It actually helps get the podcast out to people, and I would like that to happen. I would also love it if you would subscribe to my Substack newsletter at superjews.substack.com. I have just finished an epic 7,000-word piece called I Snuck in 10 Munchkins. And if you want to know what that means, then you need to sign up to my Substack. I will be sending this out as 2 separate pieces with a cliffhanger, and I won't be voicing the podcast right away. Soon, but not right away. So you need to sign up at superjews.substack.com so you can get it delivered to your inbox and read it when you want something to read. I have lots of other fun stuff in the works too. I just need to get over this cold so I can finish working on it. I'll be back soon with hopefully clearer lungs and unfortunately not as deep a voice.